Welcome to Study Buddy, meditation philosophy for the heart of your practice. This is a live online discussion of ancient yogic texts amongst meditation practitioners in the Shambhavananda yoga tradition. My name is Acharya Satyam, a resident teacher at Konalani Yoga Ashram in Hawaii, and I welcome you with love and respect. Namaste. All right, great, thanks. Yeah. Feels like a control board. Sometimes I feel like a pilot for like Delta, and there's just this like little screen I'm looking out of, but then there's all this other stuff that makes that little, like how you ever look at the windshield of an airplane and you're like, that's all they need to fly this whole thing? Shouldn't it be like way bigger, like relative to the vehicle? That would be like, it would literally be like if your rear view mirror was your windshield at your car. I think that's the proportionally right on. I think this thing's on. Let me see here. Okay, one more thing here. Thanks. Special shout out for Anju. It's been a while. It's great to see you, Anju. All right. Zoom applause. Any other special shout out? I mean, everybody's special. Yeah, but it has been a while, so it's really nice to see you, Anju. And let's see here. Shoshone. I know it's a big room. I am trying to make out who's on it. Let me pin y'all, and I can see if anybody wants to drop a couple of names in the chat box. It'll help. Looks help. Oh, that's Rachel, and we have a waving headless participant. Wonderful to see you. Oh, is that Anonymous? Yeah. John, Chris, John, Dive Master. Oh, well, let's see. There it is, Jesse. That's it, Jesse. And David Honda, thanks for setting everything up in there. I saw you earlier. Thank you. Thanks for, we're out here in the middle of the ocean. We don't get to see our Sangha a lot. It's nice to just hang out here for a minute before we get into the nitty gritty. So thanks for being here, Chaitanya. Reporting from the future. Yes. All right. So tomorrow is the last day of kids camp. Is that correct, Jatila? Confirmation? Oh yeah, let's do this. Eldo definitely gets a little, and all the support. I know that there's been a lot of helping hands both at Eldo and Shoni this summer. So Natrajani helps. Thank you so much. I'm sure there's more people we're not naming. Abaya's just hanging out, feeding me lines off camera. I got to get her a mic. She's got a mic, but she's just chilling. All right. Yeah, it's right there. So, Dharana 5 is our focal point tonight. The goal of this class is to introduce the concept. We're going to look at some quotes. We're going to meditate, a little time for discussion at the end, of course, and then just planting the seed that next week's class will be a reflection class based on this material. The idea is that, we can only, you remember this from the sutras, we can only get so far in one class. Yes, there's some amazing banter that occurs and experiences that occur just right off the bat. But if you're anything like me, this material takes time to simmer. It changes. And hopefully next week we can come and sort of share a little bit about our experience and meditate a little more, things like that. So I just want to plant that seed early so that it's just sort of there. So when you're listening, there's more time. But Dharana 6 for me is actually, or Dharana 5, sorry, has actually been, I've been working with this Dharana for quite a while because we actually haven't had a Vijnana Bhairava class for a while. We went to Shoshone to teach, etc. And now we're back. And this Dharana has really evolved. And I just want to say right off the bat that a big part of the work that I'm trying to make sure we're doing with the Vijnana Bhairava classes is to align it with the work that Babaji is giving us to do every week, to really make sure that these ancient texts are sort of being filtered through the living practice that we're being given. If I could make a fun quote right now, not from the lineage, from Bruce Lee, he said, "I am not afraid of the individual who has practiced 10,000 kicks. I'm afraid of the individual who has practiced one kick 10,000 times." And what does Babaji always say about our practice? 10,000 is like this number, this idea of like, if you want to be a great potter, throw 10,000 pots. And for our purposes today, if you want to open your heart, then open your heart 10,000 times. The Vijnana Bhairava gives us a lot of different opportunities, a lot of different techniques that, to be perfectly honest, don't always fit exactly into what we're being given in our living practice. And so tonight, a part of the Dharana talks about, the energy rising up the spine and bringing your attention down to the base chakra. There's obviously nothing wrong with that. It's a wonderful practice. And for those of us who are doing like the circular practice, circular breath in our practice, or attending Kundalini class, there might be different ways that can integrate into your practice. But for what Babaji's been teaching us, specifically for the last year and a half, everything's about the heart. And it's about being simple as we can with our technique so that all of our energy really filters into our work. And so I wanted to look at tonight's Dharana through that lens as specifically as we could. And I personally feel like it's really very, very possible that that the work that I feel like I've accomplished with this Dharana has centered around the heart, even though the Dharana itself might not totally appear to be centered around the heart. That being said, I always like to give everybody a chance to just sort of float the material through their practice on their own before we talk about it. So find a comfortable seat. And for those of you overachievers, you probably just read that Dharana in an instant. But find a comfortable seat, lighten your sort of sit bones, find your center, and I'll read the Dharana for us to work with. Consider your essence as light rays rising from center to center up the vertebrae, and so rises livingness in you. Consider your essence as light rays rising from center to center up the vertebrae, and so rises livingness in you. Welcome to move the spine a little bit, rock on the sit bones, allow the eyes to open a little, and we're gonna talk about this Dharana. Now, in the commentary, what we see in this Dharana is that there's an emphasis on this idea of, if you can get to the base, then the energy rises up very naturally. And that is where I'd like to focus our work, for today. The concept that in our practice, there's this really consistent message from the sutras and from our lineage teachers that there's a work element, that there's a work that has to be done, and that work occurs, and then it sort of makes an opening for grace. for something to sort of rise up, as this Dharana talks about, very naturally. And so in the commentary on the sutra, that's sort of where the work is presented. Before we get into that, I wanted to look at this quote about this energy that's rising up, right? This is the goddess Kundalini. This is the spiritual energy that transforms us, that literally allows us to change our lives from within and to not just be a product of our samskaras, of our patterns. Could I get a volunteer to read this next quote? All right, Jatila. This is from the Tantra Sudbhava. Oh, yeah.
Now I will explain to you.
Oh, no, you're good. Thank you. You started the recording on this. I was like, oh, stop, record. But you're good. Go ahead, Jatila. Thank you.
Now I will explain to you some very essential characteristics of this Divine Mother. She is supreme, subtle, not limited to any particular school of philosophy or religion. This Divine Mother, called Kundalini, is placed in the center of the heart. There you will find that Divine Mother, just like a serpent in the sleeping state. O Parvati, there she rests in deep sleep, not perceiving anything other than her own self, in a place called Muladhara by our masters.
Thanks, Jatila. Good timing with last week's talk from Chaitanya about Parvati, this discussion between Shiva and Parvati that's occurring. And so this Kundalini is described as having two sort of homes. The heart, which of course Nityananda said is the hub of all holy places. And so the heart is this focal point of focal points, right? But also the Muladhara, the base chakra. This is like your pelvic floor. And that is, from which everything sort of rises up, including the spine itself and the energy up the spine. And so this energy sort of is resting in this sleeping state. And the way that we awaken it is our practice, is literally what practices we do and the work that we do in our practice. And in the commentary on this Dharana, Swami Lakshmanju sort of talks about reaching that space and how it relates to the work in the Dharana. Can I get another volunteer for this next quote? Trey, sure, thanks.
You cannot reach Muladhara just while talking. You have to meditate. Meditate in continuity, and then your breath goes down in the central vein, in the pathway of the central vein. Then it touches Muladhara. Then there is no breath. And the more it rises, the more it becomes subtle. It becomes more subtle, so breath has no room there to exist.
Thanks, Trey. So this concept, if we were to say the idea of going inside, this inward trajectory, this thing that's not just our waking state, not just what we're doing when we're talking, that you have to do this, you have to meditate in continuity. And when you do, your energy naturally goes to this place. Now, again, I'm not saying like tonight's focal point is the base chakra, because it's not going to be, it's going to be the heart. But the idea is that there are these inward spaces that take focus to get to. I know we all know that on a certain level because we meditate, but when you really stop and start to feel it and work with it, that's where the Dharana comes in. That's where this class comes in. And it's saying when we do that, our breath, our awareness, it goes down. It finds that central pathway. And then it starts to become more subtle and more and more and more subtle. In terms of the Dharana, it talks about this energy rising up through the spine, becoming more and more subtle until it reaches the crown and becomes, infinitely subtle, becomes pure energy. And so what we see again, essentially, is there's an inward work, there's an inward practice that pulls us down and in. And then at some point in our work, that energy starts to sort of rise up or sort of transform or expand naturally on its own and becomes more subtle, that our physical work becomes energy at some point, becomes real subtle energy and transformation. And so we've got one more quote here from Babaji that helps to sort of, pull some of these concepts together. This is from the text Spiritual Practice. So can I get one more reader for today? Oh, Anju, sure. Go for it.
Being aware is very important. If you're trying to feel your navel and you're thinking about your relationship or what you want to have for dinner or any of the million things that pop into your mind, then nothing will happen. But if you focus on a chakra, keep your attention there and breathe into it, then it will begin to activate. You'll start to feel such things as tightness in your chest or a sharp pain similar to a muscle that's in spasm. Your focus is bringing healing energy to the tension. And that is what Shakti is. It is energy purifying your psychic system.
Thanks, Anju. So again, here we see that there's a focus required, that if we don't have it, nothing happens. And that there's going to be a million things that could take your focus. But when we hold our focus on the heart, for example, that is all it takes to activate. And then there are things we sort of have to work through in those spaces, but that it's the very idea of bringing your attention there and holding your attention there through the work, whatever it might be, that is the healing energy, that is the essence. And that is what this Kundalini, this Shakti is for. It is a purification. It's purifying our psychic system. And so before we dive in to this practice, I wanted to share with you sort of an analogy or a visualization that really helped me put this into practice, that I'm going to lead you through in our meditation. And that is the idea of this experience of going inside being very similar to the experience of just going underwater. And so if you've ever been in a pool or, just gone even just a few feet underwater, that there's sort of this pressure that occurs very naturally when you go underwater. And that pressure has also been likened to the chakra systems. The chakras have been, the density of the chakras has been likened to water itself, that the third eye and the throat are easier to feel, just like 3 or 5 feet down, so to speak, like in a pool. And the heart requires a little bit more effort, and that the navel even more so, etc., just sort of going down even all the way to the base. And when you dive under, and I'm not a master diver, and I'm not talking about going really deep, but just that feeling that we get, you have to sort of pause and you have to, clear your ears a little bit, and you have to sort of be patient. And that allows you to go a little bit deeper. Now, of course, you can, with doership, just go all the way to the bottom of the pool, grab the ring and come up, and maybe your ears hurt a little, etc. And that sort of misses the point, right? Because when you dive underwater, actually, there's a healing kind of action that occurs. It actually downregulates your nervous system when you go underwater. Your heart rate slows, and it even strengthens your lungs. And so there's this healing aspect to the pressure. And we're always focused on like how far and how long, but really just being a part of the experience is the most important aspect of it. That's where the healing is. And that's similar to this idea of how we're approaching meditation through this dharana. We just want to be a part of this experience. What does it feel like to drop in and to feel that little bit of density and to work with it, almost like clearing your ears, allowing you to go to the next level? And can you be in the heart and just sort of relax and just be there in that deeper state without a thought dragging you right up to the surface? And so if anybody here is like, the idea of being underwater or anything, it's not going to be like an intense visualization. I don't want to trigger anybody, but just let it sort of support you. It'll just be a light visualization cue that can just, support you. But with that, any questions or comments before we meditate together? All right, cool. And one other thing I want to incorporate, which some of you are going to love and some of you are going to be like, really, is a little bit of yoga. Yep, a little bit of yoga. So we're going to do a little bit of yoga. I'm talking like 3 minutes, and that's going to take us into our meditation. So for this, to keep it really simple, I put together just a couple of things I wanted to do from kneeling. So you can just come onto your knees. Don't need a mat. Don't need any props per se. And if kneeling is hard on the knees, obviously blankets under there, or you could even probably do this from standing in the beginning for sure. But so to start with kneeling, I'm going to go 3/4 with you. And we're going to sort of tap into what we call our deep core. It's the deep postural muscles of support, your deepest aspect of your core. It's not the core you're used to. You can't flex this core on purpose. It flexes as you move. So you start from kneeling with a gentle scooping of the arms. And as you scoop the arms up, you can sort of imagine like you're lifting a ball. And as you lift it, the ball gets a little heavier, and you can feel a response in your navel region, in your deep abdominals, that as your arms lift, there's a little hugging in there and then relax down. If you don't feel it at first, no problem, but just sort of scoop and feel as the arms reach the horizon line, there's a response in the deep core. It's this sort of pressurizing that happens as we work. So sort of like the movement equivalent of what we're talking about in meditation. As you move, it creates this sort of pressure. And then you can just sort of pause with the arms at the horizon line and feel that gentle hugging in. And then just let yourself sort of rock back, keeping your whole body straight and forward. You're just sort of saying hello to the front body. It's helping tone the whole front body as you lean back. It's not camel pose. It's actually just sort of a prep. And the next time you rock back, just sort of pause there. Feel that tone across the front body. I'm talking just a couple inches of rocking here. Feel the length in the back of the neck. And then relax the arms down. And then we're going to do that one more time, except we're going to do it from table position. So from table, this is one of my favorite things in yoga. It's called unweighting. And it means you don't actually lift a limb. You just sort of take the weight out of it. So from table, you're just going to take the weight out of your left knee, and you just sort of lift. It's like it might leave the floor by a centimeter, and I want you to just feel what happens in your abdominals when you do that, and then shift the weight, and then unweight your left your left knee, your other knee. What I love about unweighting is you do the smallest thing and you get to feel your body do so many other things. Like notice as you unweight back and forth from knee to knee, notice how the weight shifts in your hands without you even telling yourself to do anything. The next time your right knee unweights, keep it just sort of barely above the floor and just slide the leg back. You can tuck the toes. Great. And then you're actually going to let yourself drop back onto that knee. So you're like in a staggered lunge, and just sort of wave the opposite arm up and back for a little twist. A nice spiral, really. One more time, just a spiral forward and back. And then we're going to bring it back to table. unweight the opposite knee, slide it along the floor. You can tuck the toes if you like, or keep them flat. And then you're going to drop that knee back into a staggered lunge and then wave the arm forward for a twist. So it's opposite leg that's back is the arm that goes forward and up. Couple of revolutions there. Great. And then walk the hands in, round your spine a little bit, and then just roll forward. The hips are going to take you up. You can just walk your shoulders back a few times, just sort of spiral them back. And that's it. We'll come back to our seat. So just trying to sort of draw parallels between what we're doing on our cushion and what we're doing on the mat. You know, it can be nice to see that there are these same concepts at play. And it might help you meditate. So from here, take your time to find a comfortable seat. You can allow the eyes to close. And what's interesting about closing the eyes is really this is one of the first layers of going inside. It almost feels like the equivalent of like walking into the water, but not just maybe you're just up to your waist or just sort of floating, because it's already different. It's already something. And try to notice your natural breath flow, but go ahead and smooth it out so you get to participate there. And feel this like the tide sort of ebbing and flowing. And take a moment to draw the breath in through the third eye and just draw it down towards the base of the throat. And feel what that takes. As you exhale, just try to leave your awareness there inside at the base of the throat. And then each inhale draws the focus in. Just try to feel the energy or the focus that it takes to actually go from the head to slightly below that surface. This is similar to that experience of the deep core. It's subtle, it's soft, and it's integrated into your practice in such a way that you have to feel it as you breathe, as you do it. But can you feel the slight density, the slight focus that it takes to go in instead of out? And for our work today, that's everything. That's what we're here to feel. As Babaji said, and you can just keep your attention there and breathe, it will begin to activate. Now you can swallow. That'll help release any tension there at the base of the throat. And without too much effort, draw the next inhale in through the nose, up over the third eye, and down past the throat, and let it just travel towards the heart. And the most important thing is not reaching the heart, but feeling what it's like to go in a little deeper. Whatever you encounter there is where your work is. And similar to diving down, it's not really anything you can externally reason out. It's all happening inside. And all you have to do is just feel it happen. Feel the experience and just be there with it. Neither accepting or rejecting, but being aware, participating. What does it feel like to draw down into this space? And can you relax in that subtle pressurized state? Can you just be down here in the heart and relax at the same time? It does take effort to stay in the heart, to reach for the heart. There is a density that we're having to work with. But this is the experience that heals us, as Babaji said, that purifies us. And as you're able to maintain that awareness in continuity, the second half of the practice presents itself. And that is this aspect of expanding, of releasing. And so, as Babaji has been teaching, the inhale draws your focus down towards the heart, but the exhale, the heart space expands. This is similar to the experience of letting yourself just float effortlessly back to the surface of the water, to let the water guide you up. Except in our meditation, we want to stay in the heart space. And instead of going up, we want to let the heart expand out. The healing is in the experience. We all want to grow. There's something in your life you want to change. There's something you want to fix, to attain. And this is how you do it. You can feel this slightly pressurized space of the heart. If you can expand and release with your exhale, allow that space to grow. Just let this process work on you. And for the sake of the Dharana, we can bring our attention a little bit lower towards the navel. Again, breathing towards it and trying to be a part of the experience. Feeling what you encounter, what kind of density might be there, and not accepting or rejecting it. Trying to feel that grace with your exhale. And finally, you can allow your awareness to drop or sink or dive a little deeper towards the base, the pelvic floor, the root. This is the seat of Ganesh. And just feeling like the base of a statue, the foundation. Feel how you rise up from this space. And with your attention deep in the foundation, we can come back to the Dharana once more. Consider your essence as light rays rising from center to center up the vertebrae. And so rises livingness in you. And we can bring our awareness once again back to the heart. Just feeling that as a sort of a home for your awareness, the seat of the higher mind. And allowing the eyes to open slowly. And notice if you almost feel like right now, almost like you're still underwater in a good way, like you're still in that slightly pressurized space or that space of heightened awareness, almost like you're observing your reality. And we're going to take a couple minutes to write about our experience as we usually do. And so just take 2 or 3 minutes to jot down a little bit about what your experience was like of this idea of these deeper realms, of possibly that pressure you might experience, of the experience being the healing, etc. So we'll just take 2 or 3 minutes for that. And if you don't have a pen and paper nearby, write a couple of like key words in the air, or you don't have to. People like, I don't want to do that. But just, I would just write a key word, something that you felt, how you would describe it in one word. All right. So take a moment, see if you can distill down what you wrote to a key word and drop it in the chat box just to get us moving. And our goal isn't to exhaust ourselves with discussion today, but to, get the ball rolling and to invest in our next class just to see where this landed. Okay. I can type for the room here. Have a word. And either way, James, but let me know if you have one. Okay. Right. Edges less well defined. Dust settling down, rejuvenating. Escape from weight. Buoyancy. Fluid but still. Veil. Bypassing mind, balloon head. Expansive, open, relaxed. Proactive. And as in simultaneously physical breath, heart pulsation, central channel flow. And cocoon of silence. Thanks. All right, balloon head, would you like to start us off?
Can you hear me?
Sure.
Oh,
Yes.
great. It's working. Yeah. It was just really easy to find that place in the heart that it felt buoyant, but also there's that rising, but the heart with it tethered there, it was not tethered. Anyways, afterwards, that was like the experience of it. But then afterwards, opening the eyes, it was like balloon head, which is my image that I have after like a retreat where the mind's just not there. So
Nice. Yeah. It's as if suddenly everything flips, and where all the information used to be, it's like all of a sudden, oh, there's so much information down here. There's so much experience down here. And, and it just flips. Then you're like, this actually is pretty empty and this feels very full. Yeah. I want to say any volunteers, but I don't know. Will anyone volunteer if I say that? Exactly. So that's why I'm going to call on Tejavan. Good to see you, Tejavan. Don't know if we got a keyword from you. I'm scanning. I probably should have looked for that first. Oh, there you go. And oh, that was the most confusing one. So go for it.
Well, what I meant by "and" is that you all can hear me, right? Yeah, okay. Baba says like breathe into the heart, and then on the expansion, you're not trying to like don't follow the breath, right? And like try to figure out what the heck that means, and this time I tried being like, okay, it's not like I'm rejecting the breath going out too. It's just that I also have maybe the energy feel as well. And since we were also doing like the heart and the central channel thing going up and down, so I kind of had those things also going at the same time, and also just trying to imagine them happening. But it just, it seemed to work. It's just kind of like, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm more poetry in this class. The more poetry, the better. You think everybody unlimit yourself. That's awesome. Just to like let yourself just have that kind of keyword. That's rad. Yeah, I agree. That exhale expansive moment, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to like double down on what you were sharing in the way that you maybe meant it, but this idea of it not having to be an external experience, but somehow it's an expansion of an internal space into the external. So that's that. For me, the rising up in the water helped me understand that experience a little bit more, because I realized that I could be carried. Like I didn't have to do the expanding, like I didn't have to push open the heart on the exhale, but that there was a natural force behind it. That I think I've been approaching the exhale expansion with the same effort as the inhale coming down to the heart. Like I was doing the same thing, but they weren't the same thing as far as I can tell. There's an effort, and then there's this grace, and I feel like that exhale expansion that Bob has been cueing might be, trying to help us feel that other way of working. And so, yeah, it was when you were talking, that's what I was sort of hearing the most. Do you want to clarify any of that, or did it feel like something different, or do you want to ask anything? Are you good?
Okay. Oh, that sounds good too.
Yeah. Gita, how are you doing? Would you like to sort of elaborate a little bit on your share?
Yeah, you were just talking, you just said it. using your words, where there was this, instead of kind of forcing, it's like on the edges, less well defined. I love the way you said it. The image that was coming in my mind was I'm quite aware most of the time of the ego or the small self, but there was a sense of merging with something bigger. So
specifically in the sort of that exhale expansive moment. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. That's a very helpful way of describing it. Trey, dust settling down for you?
Yeah, it felt very, I want to say calming, but that doesn't describe all of it. It's almost like, it's like my awareness was going down and the thoughts were going up. And so I guess my awareness is the dust settling and the thoughts were leaving. So that's why it felt calming. And like almost immediately, as soon as I started meditating, I could feel like myself getting hotter. And by the end, it felt very like restorative, like almost like a new energy, I guess.
Say renewable energy.
A new energy.
Oh, a new energy. Yeah.
That would be cool, I guess. So.
No, I think you sort of hit on a big aspect of this Dharana in my experience too, is that it feels like it really helps you separate, like you're talking about, and how when you can better participate in the practice and not sort of be into the doership aspect or to be drifting away, but like when you're actually in the practice, it doesn't really matter how deep you go or what experiences you have. It's like there's this healing quality, like for example, in going underwater, it's like just the pressure itself is the healing. It's like that's what does all this healing. And like with going inside, it's like just the going inside rejuvenates. So sort of focusing on that and feeling that was for me one of the bigger focal points. So thanks for bringing that up. And so I want to put the ball in your court for the next week. Maybe this landed in a spot that felt productive for you. Maybe it didn't. But I think there's an essence to this concept for the week. This essence of like going in and having this inward space, being this space you do have to work to find, and then also coupled with this experience of these in the Dharana, as it says, the light rays, rising up, or just the expansion of the heart, and working with the practice, that Babaji's given us in the heart, and feeling that work and sort of paying attention to your process. And hopefully we can come back next week, meditate a little bit more together, revisit a little bit of the material, and then see where we want to go with it. And just it doesn't have to be all about the text. It can just be about our practice. Let this be a time for us to share and reflect on our practice. So balls in your court, and your practice in your daily life hopefully inform our discussion next week. Any final questions or comments before we wrap up class together? Well, thank you all so much for being here. Thanks for your energy and your awareness. Namaste.